The White House stood silent, bathed in the faint glow of the Washington, D.C. skyline. At midnight, the building seemed almost alive, its hallways brimming with secrets, the air thick with an eerie kind of anticipation. Deep within its historic corridors, Barron Trump tiptoed cautiously, his heart racing as he navigated the labyrinth-like interior. Clad in a simple black hoodie and jeans, with a backpack slung over one shoulder, the youngest member of the Trump family looked more like a teenager sneaking out for a joyride than someone fleeing from something far more sinister. His breathing was shallow, his movements deliberate. He knew the routines of the Secret Service, had studied them for years. At exactly midnight, there was a window of approximately 6 minutes when the guards patrolling the East Wing rotated shifts. If he could make it to the side entrance unseen, he might stand a chance. Barron paused near a large portrait of Abraham Lincoln, pressing himself flat against the wall. Footsteps echoed faintly from a hallway nearby. His pulse quickened. He peeked around the corner, only to see the silhouette of a guard vanishing into another wing. He exhaled slowly, the tension momentarily easing from his body, and continued forward, clutching a small, sleek keycard in his hand. The events that had led him to this moment played in his mind like a chaotic reel of images and sounds. It had all begun just hours earlier when he stumbled upon a room he had never seen before. Growing up in the White House, Barron had explored nearly every nook and cranny of the sprawling mansion. Or so he thought. That afternoon, as he browsed through the dusty bookshelves in the West Wing library, his hand had brushed against something odd. A slight give in the shelving unit. Curious, he applied more pressure, and to his astonishment, the bookshelf slid open with a low groan, revealing a hidden passage. The passage led to a small, dimly lit room filled with artifacts, maps, and an old-fashioned desk covered in papers. But what caught Barron's attention immediately was a glowing monitor in the corner, its screen displaying cryptic lines of text. As he stepped closer, he could feel the hum of energy in the air, a strange sensation that made the hair on his arms stand up. He squinted at the screen, trying to make sense of the message it displayed. Operation Obsidian, Phase 4 activated. The words meant nothing to him, but they carried an ominous weight. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, tempted to explore further, but a sudden noise in the hallway outside froze him in place. He quickly pocketed a small keycard that was resting beside the monitor and backed out of the room, closing the secret door behind him. Later that evening, as he sat in his room replaying the strange discovery in his mind, Barron received an unexpected visitor. Mr. Langley, one of the older janitors who had worked at the White House for decades, knocked softly on his door. There was something unusual about the way Langley looked at him. His eyes filled with a mixture of concern and fear. "You shouldn't have found that room, son," Langley whispered, glancing nervously down the hallway. Barron's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" Langley leaned in closer, his voice barely audible. "Not everything here is what it seems. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. Be careful, Barron. They're always watching." Before Barron could press him for more information, Langley was gone, disappearing into the shadows as quickly as he had appeared. That brief warning, coupled with the cryptic messages in the hidden room, was enough to set Barron on edge. He knew he couldn't ignore what he had stumbled upon. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that staying in the White House was no longer safe. Now, as he slipped through the side entrance of the White House, his mind raced with possibilities. What was Operation Obsidian? Why was it hidden? And why had Langley seemed so terrified? These questions swirled in his head as he swiped the keycard across the biometric scanner. The device beeped softly, and the door unlocked with a quiet click. Barron stepped outside, the cold night air biting against his skin. Washington, D.C. looked peaceful, almost serene, but Barron knew better. The city was a chessboard, and he was just a pawn in a game he didn't understand. He pulled up the hood of his sweatshirt and started walking briskly toward his destination, a small, nondescript apartment on the outskirts of the city. It was a safe house, arranged by his friend Jacob, a tech-savvy genius he had met online. Jacob didn't know much about Barron's family or his life at the White House, but he had always been eager to help whenever Barron needed something off the grid. As Barron walked, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being followed. The streets were unusually quiet, the kind of silence that felt unnatural. Every so often, he glanced over his shoulder, but the sidewalks remained empty. Then, as he crossed an intersection, the unmistakable sound of tires screeching reached his ears. He turned just in time to see a black SUV speeding toward him from the other end of the street. Panic surged through him. He ducked into an alley, his heart pounding as he pressed himself against the brick wall. The SUV slowed as it reached the intersection, its tinted windows hiding whoever was inside. Barron held his breath, praying they wouldn't spot him. After a few tense moments, the vehicle turned down another street, and Barron took the opportunity to slip away, weaving through the maze of alleys until he was certain he had lost them. When he finally reached the safe house, Jacob was waiting for him, his face illuminated by the glow of his laptop screen. "You look like you've been through hell," Jacob said, ushering him inside. Barron dropped his backpack onto the floor and collapsed onto a worn-out couch. "They're on to me," he said, his voice shaky. "I found something I wasn't supposed to, and now they're after me." Jacob's expression grew serious. "What did you find?" Barron recounted everything: the hidden room, the glowing monitor, the cryptic message, and Langley's warning. As he spoke, Jacob's fingers flew across his keyboard, hacking into the White House's secure server. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, and Jacob's face grew increasingly pale. "This is bad," Jacob muttered. "What is it?" Barron asked, leaning over to see the screen. Jacob hesitated before replying. Operation Obsidian isn't just some random project. It's a high-level surveillance program. And according to this, you're the target. Barron felt a chill run down his spine. "Me? Why would they target me?" Jacob shook his head. "I don't know. But it's not just surveillance. There are contingency plans here, plans to control or eliminate perceived threats. Whatever you found in that room, they think you're a threat now." Barron's mind raced. It didn't make sense. He was just a teenager, barely involved in his father's world of politics and power. Why would anyone see him as a threat? Before he could dwell on the question, the laptop screen flickered, and a live video feed appeared. Barron's heart sank as he recognized the face on the screen. "Barron," the voice said, calm but firm. "If you're watching this, it means you've made a very dangerous choice." It was his father, President Donald Trump, speaking from the Oval Office. His expression was a mixture of stern authority and paternal concern. "There are things you don't understand yet," Trump continued. "Things that must remain hidden for the good of this country. Come back now, and we can resolve this peacefully. But if you keep running, you'll leave us no choice." The feed cut off, leaving Barron and Jacob staring at the screen in stunned silence. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "What are you going to do?" Jacob finally asked. Barron stood, his expression resolute. "I'm not going back. Not until I know the truth." Jacob nodded. "Then we need to move. If they know you're here, it's only a matter of time before they find us." The two of them quickly packed up their belongings, preparing to leave the safe house. As they stepped out into the night, Barron felt a newfound sense of determination. He didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was certain: he wasn't running away anymore. He was running toward the truth, no matter how dangerous it might be. The adventure was just beginning.